My girlfriend was Selena Shun, the undisputed queen bee of the Manhattan social scene. Beautiful, untouchable, and pursued by half the men in the city. To get her to even look at me, I'd spent 3 years being her perfect, devoted doormat. Her cars, her handbags, the designer clothes on her back, the Michelin star meals we ate, I paid for it all. But lately, she'd become obsessed with some college kid from NYU. He had that clean-cut, pretty boy look, pale skin, a cool, detached air, the exact type that girls lose their minds over. To make him laugh, during my own birthday party on a yacht off Montauk, she shoved me into the Atlantic. She stood on the deck, mocking me, calling me a chicken who couldn't swim. The thing is, I'm terrified of the water. I ended up in the ICU, and she finally won her prize, the college kid's affection. When I woke up, she strolled into my private hospital room, not to see if I was okay, but to ask for money. I just stared at her, my face a complete blank. "I'm sorry, miss. Do I know you?" The neurologist said the trauma to my brain had caused targeted memory loss. She insisted she was my girlfriend, practically screaming it, until I finally cut her off. My girlfriend is Julia Yi. Everyone who was anyone in New York knew that Julia Yi was Selena's mortal enemy. The splash was huge, shattering the calm surface of the ocean. I flailed, my arms slapping uselessly against the waves as I stared up at the laughing faces on the yacht, my lungs burning. The boy in the white linen shirt, Caleb, stood at the railing, his eyes wide and innocent. Seeing me struggle, a bright, clear laugh escaped his lips. When he laughed, Selena laughed too. It was a joyous, unrestrained sound, the tense lines around her eyes finally smoothing out. But the suffocating grip of the water was pulling me down, the pressure in my chest becoming unbearable. I nearly drowned in a sailing accident as a kid and have been terrified of deep water ever since. I never wanted to party on a yacht, but Selena had begged and pouted until I gave in. When I'd gotten on board earlier, I saw him standing there with our usual friends, a stranger. Handsome, quiet, with a magnetic intensity. Selena fussed over him all evening, pouring his champagne first, handing him the first slice of my birthday cake. It was a level of attention she had never once shown me. Something felt wrong, but I never suspected she would betray me. Not until I felt her hands on my back, shoving me into the cold, dark water. That's when I knew Selena was done with me. As I started to sink, she leisurely pushed her sunglasses up onto her head, her eyes squinting against the sun. "Leo, you can't actually be this bad at swimming, can you? Stop the act and get back up here." You made Caleb laugh. The show's over. The sound of their laughter was a sharp, stabbing pain. "Selena, I don't think he's kidding," someone finally shouted. Leo really can't swim. A life preserver hit the water near me, but my limbs were heavy, my body already giving up. "Get him out of there, Leo." The deck descended into chaos. A few guys finally managed to haul my lifeless body out of the water. They performed CPR over and over, but I wouldn't wake up. My skin was growing cold. That's when the panic finally set in for Selena. She rushed me to the hospital, and after 2 hours of frantic work in the ER, the doctors managed to bring me back. When they told her I was out of immediate danger, she let out a long sigh of relief. If I had died, she would have been a murderer. She loved to play games, but not enough to end up in prison. I finally woke up the next day. The sterile white ceiling and the sharp scent of disinfectant filled my senses. I tried to move, but a throbbing pain shot through my head. I groaned, pressing a hand to my forehead. Selena, just returning to the room, saw I was awake and rushed to my side. "Leo, you're finally awake," she said, grabbing my hand. "You were out all night. I was so worried you'd never." She paused, her expression shifting. "Anyway, I'm running a little low. Can I borrow your black card?" I yanked my hand away, staring at her with pure confusion. "Who are you?" "Leo, are you kidding me right now? It's me, Selena, your girlfriend." She thought I was faking, and her voice hardened with impatience. "Look, I'm sorry I pushed you, but you don't have to be so dramatic. You're fine now, aren't you, girlfriend?" I shot back, my voice sharp. "What are you talking about? My girlfriend is Julia Yi." I shoved her hand away again, my eyes narrowed with suspicion. "What? Who did you just say is your girlfriend?" Selena's eyes instantly filled with rage. She slammed her fist on the bedside table. "You take that back." Julia Yi was her arch-nemesis. It was a rivalry that went back to childhood, and Selena had never once come out on top. She hated Julia with a burning passion. Even hearing her name was enough to set her off. I looked around the empty room, then back at her advancing, furious face. "Who are you?" I yelled. "Get away from me. I don't know you." My shout brought a doctor running. A nurse, seeing how agitated I was, gently escorted Selena out of the room and asked her to wait in the hall. The doctor ran a series of tests, asking me a battery of questions before telling me to rest. Selena stood outside, her anger slowly cooling into disbelief. The moment the doctor emerged, she cornered him. "Doctor, what's wrong with my boyfriend? Why doesn't he recognize me? And why does he think some other woman is his girlfriend?" "It's possible the trauma caused some memory disruption," the doctor explained. "It might resolve itself over time. For now, try not to agitate him." Selena didn't buy it for a second. How could he only forget her? As soon as the doctor was gone, she burst back into the room and pinned me against the bed, her face inches from mine. "I push you into the ocean, so what? Is that really enough for you to fake amnesia?" The sound of the struggle brought nurses rushing in. It took 3 of them to pull her off me and drag her out of the room. "What kind of girlfriend are you?" One of them scolded her, glancing back at me cowering on the bed through the small window in the door. "Stay away from him. If you keep this up, he might never remember you." Selena just scoffed. She wanted to see just how long I could keep up the act. A little while later, my parents arrived. Fearing the consequences, Selena hadn't even told them I was in the hospital. The Shuns were a prominent family in New York, but the Van Cess were in another league entirely. Besides, Shun Industries was teetering on the edge of bankruptcy and desperately needed my father's investment. Not to mention, I held the patents to their most critical technology. Selena needed my family's money, and she needed my skills. "Mr. and Mrs. Vance, you have to see this," she said, forcing a smile as she complained to my parents. "Leo's putting on such a convincing show. He's pretending he doesn't even know me. He even grabbed my arm." My parents' faces fell. They rushed to my bedside. "Leo," my dad said, pointing to himself, his voice trembling slightly. "Do you know who we are?" They were terrified I had forgotten them, too. "Dad, Mom, what are you talking about?" I said, managing a weak smile at their anxious faces. "Of course I know who you are." They both let out a visible sigh of relief. Then, looking at my pale, exhausted face, their expressions filled with pain. My mother gently touched my cheek. "Leo, the doctor said you nearly drowned, that you were in the ER all night. You're terrified of the water. Why would you go anywhere near the ocean?" Just then, Selena walked back in. I pointed a shaky finger at her. "Dad, Mom, she's crazy. Make her leave. I feel sick just looking at her." I gripped my mother's hand, my eyes wide and earnest. "She says she's my girlfriend. But that's impossible. My girlfriend is Julia Yee, right?" My parents' expressions froze. They took out their phones, showing me photo after photo, asking me to identify people. It was true. The only person I couldn't remember was Selena. The only person I was certain about was Julia. Selena, however, still believed I was faking it. The day I was discharged, she didn't even bother to pick me up. She was too busy taking Caleb Moore out to lunch. She'd been trying to get a date with him for weeks, and he'd finally said yes. She roared up to the NYU campus in the fiery red convertible I'd bought her with my first ever bonus, causing a stir among the students. Caleb slid into the passenger seat, casting a cool, detached glance at her. "Is your boyfriend okay?" he asked softly, his voice as aloof as ever. Please. He's got more lives than a cat," Selena said, trying to sound breezy and charming. That afternoon, she took him on a shopping spree down Fifth Avenue, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on my credit card. They ended the day with a candlelit dinner at one of the most expensive restaurants in the city. But when she dropped it back off at his dorm, he refused to take the mountain of luxury shopping bags. Selena was completely captivated. This was the chase, the thrill she'd been missing. That night, high on the feeling, she took her friends to a chic lounge in a meatpacking district to celebrate. Most of them congratulated her, wishing her luck in finally landing Caleb. But her best friend, Chloe Lynn, looked troubled. "Selena, you and Leo are practically engaged," Chloe reminded her quietly. "Isn't this wrong? I mean, he just got out of the hospital. Shouldn't you be with him?" Selena set her cocktail down with a clink and laughed, a dismissive, ugly sound. If a woman doesn't have fun before she's married, when is she supposed to? I've been suffocating with that man for 3 years. The sight of Leo makes my skin crawl. He's not even good enough to shine my shoes anymore. Now that I've finally found someone interesting, don't you dare ruin it for me. Her tone was careless, dripping with contempt. "Aren't you afraid he'll actually forget you for good?" Chloe pressed, her brow furrowed. Selena paused, the rim of her glass at her lips. A flicker of something crossed her face before she masked it with a sneer. "Forget me? Did you not see the way he used to worship me? Like a pathetic little puppy. Does he have the guts to forget me? And even if he did, so what? I was sick of him groveling all the time anyway." Chloe urgently tugged at her arm, her eyes wide with panic. But Selena shook her off, finally letting out all the venom she'd been holding back. That self-righteous act of his. "Leo can't hold a candle to Caleb," she declared, her voice sharp with mockery. Chloe pointed behind her, whispering desperately, "Leo." Selena froze. She whipped her head around and saw me standing there. The color drained from her face, and her voice trembled. "Oh, Leo, you just got out of the hospital today. What were you doing at a bar?" She dropped her glass and scrambled to her feet, forcing a brittle smile. I met her gaze with a look of pure indifference, my face a stony mask. She faltered, thrown off by my calm. The old Leo would have been yelling, would have stormed out and disappeared for days. But this Leo just looked at her like she was a stranger. "Leo," she tried again, her voice softer. Suddenly, a smile broke across my face, my eyes lighting up as I looked past her. Seeing this, Selena thought I wasn't angry and started to move toward me. But I stepped right around her, my arms opening wide as I walked toward a woman in a stunning blue dress. I wrapped my arms around her. "Julia," I murmured, "I've missed you so much." Julia's perfume was a subtle, elegant scent, a stark contrast to the heavy, alcohol-laden air of the bar. I held her gently by the waist, my gaze meeting her bright, clear eyes over her long lashes. "Julia," I said again, my voice low and tender. She looked up at me, her pupils constricting slightly, a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. "Let go of her." Selena's voice was a raw scream. Her eyes were bloodshot with fury as she lunged forward, tearing my hands off Julia. "Leo, what is wrong with you? You have a girlfriend, and you're hitting on another woman? And her of all people? This pathetic bitch." Seeing her raw, unhinged behavior, I frowned, pulling my arm free and positioning myself in front of Julia. "Julia, don't mind her," I said, turning to face Julia's beautiful, composed face with a reassuring tone. "She's just some crazy stalker. She's been following me for a while now. You don't have to engage." The word stalker was the final straw. Selena completely lost it. In front of the entire bar, she pointed a shaking finger at me and shrieked, "Are you done pretending, Leo? I pushed you into the ocean, so what? You're alive, aren't you? Is that any reason to fake amnesia? Julia Yi is not your girlfriend. I am." A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowded room. Thanks to her outburst, everyone in New York's elite circle would now know that I, Leo Vance, had forgotten my famous socialite girlfriend. Just a few weeks ago, I had proposed to Selena in a live-stream spectacle. She had accepted my diamond ring and a $5 million engagement gift. No one could have predicted this. "What are you talking about?" I said, taking Julia's hand in mine. My voice was firm, my gaze unwavering. "Julia is my girlfriend." Julia's eyes widened slightly. She looked up at me, studying my face, before her expression dimmed, her usual cool composure returning. Seeing us look at each other sent Selena into a new fit of jealousy. She lunged again, trying to drag me away, but I held fast to Julia, shoving Selena back. "Can you please leave me alone?" I said, my voice dangerously low, "or you're not going to like what happens next." That did it. Consumed by rage, Selena slapped me hard across the face. The sting was sharp and hot. I stood there, stunned into silence. "Leo, there's a limit to how pathetic you can be," she screamed, her voice ragged. My face went cold. I raised my hand and slapped her back, the sound cracking through the bar's stunned silence. "You're an imposter," I snarled. "And you dare to hit me?" Selena froze, completely dumbfounded. In the past, I'd treated her like a goddess, catering to her every whim, shielding her from the slightest discomfort. I cooked for her, washed her clothes, I'd even washed her feet. This was the first time I had ever laid a hand on her. Without another word, I took Julia's hand and led her out of the bar. Selena tried to follow, but Chloe grabbed her, pulling her back to their table. "Don't stop me. I'm going to teach that cheating pair a lesson." Selena yelled, her fists clenched. She had never been so humiliated, especially not in front of so many people. She was Selena Shun, the city's untouchable it girl. Men fell over themselves for a chance with her. "Selena, that's enough," Chloe said with a heavy sigh. Selena whipped her head around, her eyes narrowed. "You're supposed to be my best friend. Are you taking that bitch's side now?" "Of course I'm on your side," Chloe said, her voice softening. "But can't you go a little easier on Leo? He's still your boyfriend, and he just got out of the hospital. He's not supposed to be under any stress. That bastard is one step away from sleeping with her, and you want him to be calm." Selena's rage was a physical force. Chloe's expression hardened. "And you have the nerve to talk about him? What about you? Aren't you even worse?" She couldn't stand it anymore. Splash. Selena grabbed a glass and threw its contents in Chloe's face. The wine dripped down her cheeks, soaking the front of her dress. "Am I the same as him? I can like other people. He can't," Selena declared, utterly shameless. Chloe expressionlessly wiped her face, looking at her friend with profound disappointment. "As of tonight, I, Chloe Lynn, am no longer your friend. With that, she turned and walked out of the bar without a backward glance. Selena didn't seem to care. She went back to drinking with her other friends, sinking back into her world of careless indulgence. Losing one friend meant nothing to her. The next morning, the sun shone just as brightly. Selena's first stop was Caleb's dorm, the luxury gifts from their shopping spree in hand. The boy was as coolly detached as ever, his eyes clear and innocent. He glanced from the designer bags in one of her hands to the hot coffee in the other and decisively took the coffee. It was still warm, a welcome comfort against the chilly morning air. Selena's thoughtfulness was impeccable. "Did you need something this early?" Caleb asked. He wasn't smiling, but his gaze had softened slightly. "For you, Caleb," Selena said with a dazzling smile, holding out the bags. At the sight of the luxury brands, Caleb's brow furrowed. "You don't really think you can buy me with a few pairs of shoes and some clothes, do you?" he said, his tone serious. "What do you take me for?" He took a step back. "Of course not, Caleb," Selena cooed. "I know you don't care about these things. I just wanted to get you a little something. I just want you to be happy." After much persuasion, Caleb finally accepted the gifts. Once he was placated and had agreed to another dinner date, Selena got in her car and drove to the Vance family townhouse. "Mr. and Mrs. Vance, what do you mean Leo didn't come home last night?" Selena demanded, barely restraining herself from screaming at my parents. "Selena, Leo doesn't remember you right now. Please be patient with him," they said, their faces etched with guilt. "Mrs. Vance, call him. Call Leo right now," Selena ordered, struggling to keep her anger in check. A call was made. My mother gave her the address, a 5-star hotel. Selena felt like her lungs would explode. She floored it, racing to the hotel. Arriving at my suite, she began hammering on the door like a madwoman, startling guests down the hall. "Ma'am, please calm down," the hotel manager said, approaching cautiously. "If you continue, I'll have to call security." Selena whirled on him, swinging her purse wildly at the door. "My boyfriend is in there sleeping with another woman, and you want me to be calm?" she shrieked, her rage now directed at him. Then, she turned back to the door. "Leo, you shameless, disgusting man. Are you afraid to open the door because you're hiding someone? Did you sleep with that filthy whore, Julia Yee?" She was losing her mind. The boyfriend she'd had wrapped around her finger for 3 years, a man she'd never even touched, had been stolen by another woman. She wanted to kill them both. The door didn't open. Instead, the police arrived. Only then did I open the door. I stood there, arms crossed, looking at the raving lunatic in the hallway with deep annoyance. "Officer," I said calmly, "this woman is crazy. I don't know her, but she harasses me constantly." Hearing this, Selena's fury peaked. Her eyes were completely bloodshot. She shoved past the officer blocking her way and stormed into the suite, looking ready to commit murder. "That bitch Julia has to be in here." She tore the room apart, ripping through closets, checking under the bed, throwing pillows. There was no trace of a woman anywhere. Still, she refused to believe it. She spun around, grabbing me by the collar. "Where did you hide her? Where's that slut?" As she screamed, a sharp pain shot through my head. The police officers moved in to pull her away. I collapsed to the floor, clutching my head, my face turning ashen. "My head. It hurts." Then I passed out. "Sir, the gentleman checked in alone last night," the manager said, staring daggers at Selena as he dialed for an ambulance. "There's a limit to making false accusations, you know." Selena stood frozen in the middle of the trashed room. Seeing me lying motionless on the floor, she finally started to panic. She tried to follow the paramedics to the hospital, but before she could take 2 steps, an officer put a hand on her arm. "Leo." Her voice was suddenly soft, pleading. But the police weren't interested in her display of affection. They took her down to the station, and it wasn't until late afternoon that she was released. She rushed straight to the hospital. My father saw her coming, and his face turned to stone. "How dare you show your face here?" he said, his voice trembling with rage. "Look what you've done to my son. Are you trying to kill him?" "Mr. Vance, Selena began, but I cut her off from my hospital bed. "Dad, get her out of here. I'm sick of looking at her." I spat, my voice filled with disgust. "And she keeps pretending to be my girlfriend, when everyone knows Julia is my girlfriend." Julia Yee was Selena's weak spot, a button that, once pushed, always triggered an explosion. "Leo, I am your girlfriend," she screamed in furious reminder. I used to call her by her name, affectionately. Now I was using that tone for her mortal enemy. She couldn't bear it. My mother, seeing Selena's hysterics were causing me to clutch my head in pain again, pulled her out into the hallway. "Selena, please," she begged, her eyes red-rimmed. "Stop upsetting him. He's lost his memory. He doesn't remember you." "I'm sorry," Selena bit out, forcing the apology through gritted teeth. Buzz. Her phone vibrated. The fire in her chest was still raging, but the moment she saw the message, her features softened. A small smile played on her lips. It was Caleb, asking her to a movie that night. From my bed, I watched her expression change, but her eyes never once met mine. She muttered a quick goodbye to my mother and hurried out of the hospital, arriving empty-handed and leaving the same way, without a single look back. I let my gaze drop and sank back against the pillows, a wave of relief washing over me. Later, as I was drifting in and out of sleep, I felt a cool touch on my cheek. My eyes snapped open, my body tensing, but the face looking down at me wasn't Selena's. It was Julia's. My expression instantly brightened. I sat up quickly. "Julia, I knew you cared about me," I said with a wide grin. "You ran off and left me alone last night. I was worried you didn't want me as your boyfriend anymore." Julia's eyes widened for a second, and she instinctively reached out to steady me as I swayed. Just then, my parents walked in, both of them surprised to see her. "Ms. Yee, what a surprise," my father said, his tone respectful. "Julia Yee was a major player in New York. A woman from a wealthy family, yes, but her decisive leadership had taken Yee Industries from a modest firm to a powerhouse that had completely eclipsed Shun Industries in just 3 years. Even Selena's father had to book an appointment to see her." Julia looked down for a moment, then met my parents' eyes, a faint blush on her cheeks. "I was visiting a friend here at the hospital and saw that Leo was admitted, so I thought I'd stop by and see how he was doing." My father, detecting nothing amiss, simply nodded and smiled. But my mother's eyes had fallen on the insulated food containers and a bouquet of roses on the bedside table. She walked over, opened one of the containers, and was met with the rich aroma of a home-cooked meal. "Julia," she said surprised, "did you bring these?" Julia's clear eyes flickered with a hint of panic. "Oh, I just picked them up on the way," she said quietly. "After all, Leo and I were classmates in college." "What classmates?" I immediately interjected. "You're my girlfriend." I took her hand in mine, pulled out my phone, and snapped a picture of our intertwined fingers. Her skin was incredibly fair, her hands soft and smooth. "I'm posting this on Instagram," I announced, "so everyone knows you're my girlfriend." Before she could react, I'd posted it and was already opening the food container she'd brought. The scent of braised short ribs, his favorite, filled the room. There were several other dishes, all things I'd loved back in college, meticulously arranged. I opened the other container to find a thermos of chicken noodle soup. Looking at the food, I felt a strange pang in my chest, my eyes welling up for a moment before I quickly composed myself. My mother watched me eat with gusto, her gaze toward the quiet, elegant Julia, now filled with gratitude. "Julia, this is so thoughtful of you," she said warmly. "We were just about to ask Leo what he wanted to eat, and you brought all his favorites." "It was nothing, Mrs. Vance," Julia replied, a blush deepening on her cheeks as she glanced at me. While I ate, my parents quietly pulled Julia aside. "Julia, Leo had an accident recently," my mother explained in a low voice. "He's confused you with Selena. He's causing you trouble, and we're so sorry. You don't have to play along. We'll handle it." "It's no trouble," Julia replied without a moment's hesitation. She didn't stay long, though. A phone call came, and she had to rush back to her office. By the next day, the picture of our hands was all over social media. Selena saw it. She had just woken up in a hotel room, still savoring the memory of the passionate kiss she'd shared with Caleb the night before. She was a little disappointed she hadn't sealed the deal, but it just proved how innocent he was. Comparing him to me, Caleb was 1,000 times better, purer, more handsome, more everything. Her phone started buzzing nonstop. Annoyed, she picked it up and saw dozens of messages telling her to check Instagram. She opened the app, and her eyes went wide. Crash. She hurled her phone against the wall, where it shattered. Then she grabbed a pillow and started beating it against the headboard. "Leo Vance, you son of a bitch," she screamed, her lungs burning with rage. But beneath the anger, a cold seed of panic began to sprout. By the time she arrived at my family's home, that seed had grown into a chilling vine, wrapping itself around her heart. My devotion to her hadn't just been good. It had been absolute. She was certain of it. She had to be. I loved her. She remembered that time in college when she'd been flirting with some guy and his girlfriend had come after her with a group of friends. She had run, terrified, and I had thrown myself in front of her, taking a blow from a baseball bat meant for her. It broke one of my ribs and put me in a hospital for weeks. And now, I was publicly declaring Julia Yee as my girlfriend on Instagram. It could only mean one thing. My amnesia was real. I had truly forgotten her. A profound sense of unease settled over her. That feeling peaked when Julia herself appeared at our door. Selena watched the four of us, me, my parents, and Julia, looking like a happy family, and she snapped. She ran out and blocked our path. "Leo," she yelled. I looked up, a flicker of surprise in my eyes. The love bites on her neck were stark and obvious. She marched forward and pointed a finger in Julia's face. "Have you no shame?" she spat. "Leo is my boyfriend. What are you doing, cozying up to him? Get away from him." Seeing the tension about to explode, I stepped forward and shoved Selena back. "Don't touch her," I warned, positioning myself in front of Julia, my eyes boring into Selena with a sharp, protective glare. Selena stumbled back, stunned. It was the same look I used to give anyone who threatened her back in college. But this time, the person I was protecting was Julia. "Leo, I'm your girlfriend," she cried, her voice cracking with desperation and hurt. "I'm going crazy, Leo. It's me." My expression remained cold, my gaze as empty as if I were looking at a complete stranger. "Ms. Shun, that's enough," I said, my voice flat. "Stop harassing me. I only have one girlfriend, and her name is Julia Yi. I love her, and I don't want anyone else." Selena's eyes blazed with fury. She raised her hand to slap me again. Perhaps it was the intimidating presence of my parents, but she stopped herself. Instead, she shot Julia a look of pure hatred, spun on her heel, and sped off in her car, tires screeching as she headed for the hospital. The moment she was gone, I turned to Julia, my voice softening. "Did that lunatic hurt you?" The gentle concern of my question seemed to catch Julia off guard. A ripple of emotion crossed her face before she masked it. "I have to get back to the office," she said quickly. After a hasty goodbye to my parents, she practically fled, disappearing in a blur. I watched her hurried retreat and smiled to myself. Had her ears just been a little red? 3 days later, I couldn't stand being cooped up at home anymore. I put on a suit, grabbed my portfolio, and went straight to the headquarters of the industries. The HR manager took one look at my resume and ran to find Julia. "Ms. Yi," she said, breathless with excitement. "You know the designer we've been trying to poach for months, Leo Vance? He just walked in and handed us his resume. Should we offer him whatever it takes?" "Where is he?" Julia asked, standing up so abruptly her chair scraped against the floor. "In the conference room." Before the HR manager could say another word, Julia was gone. The manager followed, only to find the normally unshakable, cool-headed Zoe standing hesitantly outside the conference room door, unable to go in. "Offer him anything he wants," Julia commanded without looking at her. "Just make sure we hire him." The HR manager nodded. A few minutes later, she was back in Julia's office, beaming. "Ms. Yi, we got him, and he didn't even have any salary demands. It must have been that new recruitment ad I placed. I can't believe we landed such a huge talent." Julia glanced at her coolly. "He's here because of me." The HR manager stared, confused. After joining Yi Industries, I threw myself into my work. I used my expertise and the core technologies I developed to solve several major problems for the company. Soon, I was even accompanying Julia to high-profile events, including a lavish gala hosted by a foreign billionaire at his Hamptons estate. We hadn't been there long when I saw her. Selena. She was wearing a stunning white gown, looking every bit the siren. On her arm was a tall, handsome boy, Caleb. People were swarming around her, congratulating her on her handsome new boyfriend. I stood on the lawn, my gaze cutting through the crowd to where she stood, holding court, radiant and proud. My expression hardened. Perhaps sensing my stare, her eyes swept in my direction. The moment she saw me, her composure shattered. She dropped Caleb's arm as if it were on fire and started rushing toward me. I looked away, lifted my champagne flute to my lips, and took a slow sip. The wine was bitter. "Leo, what are you doing here?" Selena asked, her voice strained. Sweat beaded on her forehead. "I didn't think you were on the guest list." She kept glancing back nervously at Caleb, whose face had darkened. Her panic grew. I turned my back to her. "I couldn't get in touch with you," she continued, her words tumbling out in a rush. "So I asked Caleb to come with me. Please, don't get the wrong idea." Just as she was speaking, Caleb walked over. "Leo, you don't need to misunderstand the situation between me and Selena," he said, his tone perfectly pitched to sound considerate and mature. "We're just friends." Selena looked at him with admiration. She thought he was so cool and composed, so unlike my petty, emotional self. "I'm sorry, Ms. Shun, but I don't know you very well," I said, my voice dripping with ice. I glanced at Caleb before my gaze returned to her. "Frankly, who you bring to parties is none of my business. However," my tone sharpened, "if you continue to harass me, I will call the police." "Leo, I am your girlfriend," Selena insisted through gritted teeth. I gave her a withering look just as Julia appeared at my side. She was breathtaking in a wine-red gown, her hair swept up elegantly. I was momentarily stunned. Pushing past Selena, I said, "Excuse me, my girlfriend is here." I walked up to Julia and took her hand as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Julia, where have you been?" I asked, a warm smile spreading across my face. "I've been waiting for you." Julia glanced at Selena before she could answer, but we were suddenly surrounded by a group of business magnates. One of them looked at me curiously. "We rarely see Ms. You with a date. And you, sir, look awfully familiar." "This is Leo Vance, one of my employees," Julia introduced me smoothly. At the word employees, Selena's head snapped up. The last of her control vanished. She grabbed my arm and dragged me toward the exit of the grand ballroom. The crowd stared after us, shocked. "Wait a minute," someone muttered. "Isn't Leo Vance Selena Shun's boyfriend? Then who is that guy?" All eyes turned to Caleb. He flushed with embarrassment, shot the crowd a glare, and hurried out of the mansion. As he reached the front entrance, he was met with the sound of Selena's furious shouting. "Leo, have you completely lost your mind? Forgetting me is one thing. But have you forgotten that you work for Shun Industries? Why in God's name are you working for her company?" I was the one who held the patents that had saved her family's company from ruin just a few years ago. "I've been an official employee at Yi Industries for a month now, ever since I recovered," I stated calmly. Selena froze. She had been so consumed with chasing Caleb for the past month that she hadn't paid attention to anything else. Just then, Caleb stormed past us, his face a thunderous mask. Selena saw him. Seeing his distress, she immediately let go of me and grabbed his arm. "Caleb, where are you going?" she asked, her voice instantly soft and pleading. He stopped, turned to face her. The usual cool calm was gone, replaced by raw anger. "Selena, what do you take me for?" he demanded. "I only agreed to come with you after you begged me for a month, and do you know what people in there are calling me? They're calling me a gold digger. A kept man. I haven't done anything with you. Why should I have to put up with that kind of humiliation?" "Who said that? Tell me who, and I'll deal with them." Selena said, her heart aching to see him so hurt. "I'm leaving," Caleb said, shaking her hand off and striding toward the valet. Selena didn't hesitate. She ran after him, pulling him toward her car and guiding him into the passenger seat. Only after he was safely inside did she seem to remember I was still standing there. "Leo, I'll explain this later," she called out before jumping into the driver's seat. From the passenger seat, Caleb rolled down the window. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a dismissive, triumphant smirk. He was the victor, and I was the loser. He had Selena wrapped around his little finger, treating her no better than a dog, and she came running every time. The next day, Selena stormed into the Yi Industries building, but she wasn't there for me. She went straight for Julia's executive office, causing a huge commotion. I put down my work and hurried over. Inside, Julia looked up from her desk, her expression calm as she watched the furious Selena. She serenely signed the last document on her desk. Selena, enraged by her opponent's composure, snatched a glass of water from the desk and threw it in Julia's face. "You've got some nerve, Julia Yi," Selena shrieked. "First you pretend to be me to get close to Leo, and now you've hired him at your company? What is your game?" Julia's expression didn't change. She calmly wiped the water from her face. "Give him back to me. You're a thief," Selena screamed, convinced Julia had stolen not just me, but my love for her. "I'm sorry, I can't do that," Julia replied, her voice soft but her eyes turning to ice. Selena let out a derisive laugh and grabbed Julia by the collar. "Leo is mine. He's my pathetic little follower. Don't think you can keep him just because he's confused you with me. Leo belongs to himself. I can't force him to do anything," Julia said, not fighting back, her gaze steady. Enraged, Selena slapped Julia across the face. "The doctor said Leo will get his memory back within a month," she sneered, looking down at Julia with contempt. "When he does, he'll come running back to me. I'm the one he loves." Julia's eyes dimmed with a flicker of unspoken sorrow. She had asked the doctor, too. This was the final month. "Selena, you crazy bitch, get away from her." I burst through the door, having gotten the key from Julia's assistant. Seeing the red mark on Julia's cheek, my face hardened. I rushed forward and shoved Selena away. I ran to Julia's side, gently touching her swollen cheek. "Julia, does it hurt?" I asked, my voice filled with concern. Julia didn't speak, just stared at me, her hand gripping my sleeve tightly, as if she were afraid I would disappear. "Leo, stay out of this. I'm going to teach this shameless tramp a lesson today." Selena lunged toward Julia again. That's when I snapped. "Who's the tramp here? You dare touch her again and see what happens." I roared, the veins on my neck standing out. Selena froze. Leo, you're yelling at me. For her? She asked, her voice trembling with disbelief. Why are you protecting her like this? Leo, you're driving me insane. I'm your girlfriend. I don't have a girlfriend like you. I shot back, a sharp pain stabbing in my heart, my eyes inexplicably burning. Refusing to believe I would ever truly hurt her, Selena grabbed a heavy vase from a nearby table and hurled it directly at Julia. Julia stood frozen, and I moved without thinking, throwing myself in front of her. The vase shattered against my arm, drawing blood. Staring at the still furious Selena, my heart filled with nothing but despair. I shoved her hard. Selena, if you don't get out now, I'm calling the police. She stumbled back, hitting the corner of a desk. A bruise was already forming on her arm. Seeing me pull out my phone, she knew she had to leave, even though she was choking on her own rage. As she left, she threw one last threat over her shoulder. Leo, you will regret this. I just looked at her, utterly disgusted. Regret it? Not a chance. Once Selena was gone, Julia frantically started tending to my arm. Seeing the gash, her eyes welled up with tears. I'm so sorry, Leo, she whispered, her voice hoarse. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have gotten hurt. Seeing her cry, I clumsily tried to wipe away her tears. I'm fine, I said earnestly. It doesn't even hurt. But why didn't you dodge? I asked. You don't have to be nice to people like her. You should fight back. Getting hit is nothing, really, she said, looking up at me, a deep sadness in her eyes. Her voice dropped. Greedy people deserve to be punished a little. I stared at her, confused. After leaving Yi Industries, Selena went straight to Caleb's university. When Caleb saw the bruise on her arm, he hesitated before getting in the car, waiting until she seemed calm. Can you believe how stupid Leo is? Selena fumed, pounding the steering wheel. Why did he have to forget me? And now he's actually laying hands on me. Caleb quickly understood what had happened. Maybe Leo just doesn't love you that much, he mused, his hand gently landing on her thigh. He looked at her with feigned sympathy. No one forgets the person they truly love. If it were me, I would never forget my love, and I would never, ever hurt them. Selena was deeply moved. Caleb was young, handsome, and so incredibly understanding. He was a million times better than Leo. She leaned in closer, and this time, Caleb didn't pull away. He soothed her pain with his own. Selena fell into his comforting embrace. The two became entangled, and she felt young and alive again. She kissed him wildly, then proceeded to shower him with money. She heard he needed new clothes, so she bought him a new wardrobe. Then she heard he needed a place to live, so she bought him a condo in Tribeca. I heard the rumors the moment I stepped back onto campus. I was there to give a guest lecture on behalf of Yi Industries and had arrived early to set up. On my way back from the restroom, I overheard voices coming from inside the lecture hall. Caleb, is it true? That old rich lady, Selena, bought you a whole condo? Of course it's true. And that's not even counting all the designer crap she buys me. Caleb chuckled, speaking to his fawning roommates. She's just a dumb woman. I complain about one little thing, and she trips over herself to throw money at me. But Caleb, another guy, chimed in. I heard she has a fiancé. Fiancé? Some guy who fried his brain and lost his memory. He's not a threat, Caleb scoffed. You guys have no idea. Selena is so obsessed with me right now. I could probably tell her to jump off a bridge, and she'd do it. She's my own personal little puppy. She's my dog, Caleb sneered. The moment the words left his mouth, I walked into the room. Caleb shot to his feet, his face a mask of pure terror. What are you doing here? He stammered. I ignored him, walked up to the podium, and continued setting up my presentation. Caleb, do you know him? One of his friends whispered. That's our guest lecturer. He's from Yi Industries, and he's an alum. Supposed to be a genius. Caleb's face was ashen. He didn't hear a word his friend said. I delivered my lecture flawlessly. Afterward, the students began to file out, but Caleb remained in his seat. Once the room was empty, he approached me, his expression a mixture of fear and defiance. Selena loves me, he said, his voice cold. Don't even think about trying to break us up. My hand paused on the mouse. I stood up straight and looked down at the handsome, young man before me. A small, humorless smile touched my lips. A guilty conscience needs no accuser, Caleb. Buzz. A text on my phone. I'm at the main gate. It was from Julia. She'd become incredibly attached to me lately. Before, she would never contact me unless I reached out first. Now, she wanted to be by my side constantly. I didn't spare Caleb another glance. I packed my things and hurried out of the building. I saw her familiar car waiting and jogged over, waving with a smile. Julia. She took me to an upscale restaurant, and after dinner, we went to the amusement park at Coney Island. The place was alive with energy, and for the first time in a long time, I felt genuinely happy. But suddenly, Julia's expression grew serious. She turned to me, her gaze heavy with hesitation. "Leo," she said, her voice so low I could barely hear it over the joyful screams from the roller coaster. "Have you ever considered that I might not be your girlfriend?" I froze, my mouth slightly open. Before I could speak, she cut me off. "I was shopping the other day and saw this watch. I thought it was nice, so I bought it for you." She didn't wait for my approval, simply taking the box, removing the watch, and carefully fastening it on my left wrist. Her movements were slow, deliberate, as if she was afraid I might pull away. I'd seen her be decisive and powerful in the boardroom. This gentle vulnerability was new. It seemed she did a lot of things on the way. On the way, she stopped by the hospital. On the way, she bought me food and flowers. And now, on the way, she bought me a Patek Philippe. "It's beautiful. I love it," I said, looking at the watch and then back at her with a sincere smile. Her face was still tense, unsmiling. I gently pulled her over to a nearby bench. The moment we sat, her hand tightened around mine. Her clear eyes locked onto me. "You haven't considered that what I said might be true?" she asked quietly. My smile faltered. I looked up at the sky, which was slowly darkening from blue to purple. My own mood mirrored it. "Julia, I know what I'm doing. Don't worry," I said after a moment, patting her hand reassuringly. "I have one request," she said, her voice serious again. "Anything." "The watch," she said, her tone almost pleading. "Promise me you'll never take it off. No matter what you remember, don't ever get rid of it." "Why would I get rid of it?" "It's gorgeous," I said, covering the watch protectively with my other hand. Seeing her somber face, I grinned. "I'll wear it when I eat, when I sleep, when I shower. I'll wear it everywhere." Her expression finally softened, and a small smile graced her lips. When she smiled, she was as beautiful as a painting. "Come on, let's take some pictures," I said, pulling her close. We took dozens of selfies, and I posted the best ones to my Instagram story. That night, Selena showed up at my door. It wasn't about the pictures. It was about Caleb. "Leo, what is wrong with you?" she raged, her face contorted with anger. "You went to Caleb's school just to humiliate him. So you almost drowned, big deal. Did it damage your brain too? Forgetting me is one thing, but Caleb is such a kind, gentle person. Why would you bully him? He's usually so strong, but because of you, he cried all night." "I bullied him?" I asked, my brow furrowing. "He cried," she repeated, looking at me with utter disgust. I lowered my head, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "Ms. Shun," I said, taking a deep breath. "You keep insisting that you're my girlfriend, my love. But nothing you do makes me believe that." Selena was taken aback. "You're the one who started things with Julia," she shot back, grasping for a justification. "Exactly," I said, my voice hardening. "So from now on, I'm going to be with Julia. I'm going to marry her and spend the rest of my life with her. So please, go be with your precious Caleb and leave me alone." Hearing the word marry, she panicked. "I won't allow it. I love you, Leo. You can't marry her." Her eyes were wild as she grabbed my hand. "Love." I laughed, but it was a cold, broken sound. My eyes started to burn. I pointed to my chest. "In here, I feel nothing for you. When I see you, all I feel is disgust. Pure, absolute disgust. You make me want to vomit. You've lost your memory. You'll remember eventually," she cried, unable to stand the cold loathing in my eyes. Memory loss? The irony was almost too much to bear. I shoved her out and slammed the door. Leaning against it, I finally let the tears fall, hot and silent. "Leo, you're going to regret this," she screamed from the other side of the door. I didn't answer. She didn't stay long. She drove back to the condo, and the moment she walked in, she swept the table clean in a fit of rage. The crash startled Caleb, who was playing video games in the other room. He came running out to find her slumped on the sofa, radiating misery. "What's wrong?" he asked cautiously. "Leo said he's going to marry Julia Yi, but he's supposed to marry me. What if he never remembers me?" The memory of the revulsion in my eyes was a physical ache in her chest. I had never, ever looked at her like that before. Caleb frowned, hiding his annoyance. How could he not? Didn't the doctor say he would? Then again, he added casually, "I saw Leo with that Julia woman. My classmates saw them at the amusement park. They looked really happy, just like a real couple." That reminded Selena of my Instagram. She pulled out her phone and started scrolling through my feed. Every single post was about Julia. It was filled with pictures of us, laughing, holding hands, looking for all the world like a real couple. Selena's hands began to tremble. She had been so focused on chasing Caleb that she had no idea things between me and Julia had gotten so serious. When she and I first got together, I was just like this taking her to nice dinners, buying her gifts, calling and texting her constantly. Now, her phone had been silent for weeks. No calls from me. No texts. It was as if I had vanished from her world. A profound sense of loss hit her like a physical blow. The next morning, she was waiting for me outside the Yeat Industries building. I saw her as I got out of Julia's car. Julia saw her too. I didn't even glance in her direction, just took Julia's hand and walked into the building with a smile. Selena didn't follow us in. She just watched. But by that evening, she couldn't hold it in any longer. She cornered us as we were leaving, her eyes red and swollen. She shoved her phone in my face, showing me an old picture of us together, of me smiling lovingly at her. Leo, look at this. Your girlfriend is me. How can you be laughing and smiling with another woman? How could you do this to me? Julia's expression tightened, her hand gripping mine. Selena scrolled through picture after picture of our past, desperately trying to trigger a memory. I just stared at her, my face a cold, emotionless mask. I'm sorry, Miss. Shun, I said, my voice flat. Even if you Photoshop us together, it doesn't make us a couple. The only person I remember is Julia. The only thing I know is that Julia is my girlfriend. With that, I pulled Julia away, leaving Selena standing alone on the sidewalk. She watched our retreating backs, her eyes burning with tears. She couldn't accept it. She would never accept it. She drove to the hospital and slammed her hands on the neurologist's desk. You told me Leo would remember me within 3 months. Why doesn't he remember me yet? The doctor was startled by her outburst. Ms. Shun, based on my experience, 3 months is typically the maximum time frame. If he still hasn't recovered his memory, it's possible his case is unique. It may just take more time. How much more time? She roared. Ms. Shun, please calm down, the doctor urged. She had no income, and she'd lost her boyfriend. She couldn't calm down. Calm down? How am I supposed to calm down? My boyfriend is about to marry someone else. How can I be calm? Ms. Shun, given Mr. Vance's condition, perhaps you should try spending more time with him. Take him to places you used to go together. It might help jog his memory. Useless, she spat. You call yourself the best neurologist in the country? If Leo doesn't remember me, I'll make sure you lose that reputation. She shoved the doctor aside and stormed out. But before she could put any plan into motion, her father showed up at the condo she shared with Caleb. Selena was leaning against Caleb, morosely drinking wine. The sight of her father made her jump to her feet. Dad, what are you? Smack. The force of the blow sent her staggering. I was wondering why Leo quit and went to E Industries. Her father seethed, his body trembling with rage. It's because you've been whoring around with another man. You ungrateful child. Are you trying to kill me? Do you have any idea how important Leo is to our company? Dad, it's not my fault. Selena pleaded. Leo thinks Julia is me. What was I supposed to do? I know he bit out. And I also know that you're the one who pushed him into the ocean. Selena froze. I'm warning you, he continued, his voice dangerously low. You had better pray that Leo's father never finds out about this. If he does, he'll pull his investment, and when that happens, don't expect me to care about father-daughter ties. I'm cutting you off. Most of Selena's income had come from me. A smaller portion came from her father. Now, he was her only source of money. If he cut her off, she would be destitute. Dad, what are you saying? She whispered, her voice filled with disbelief. Her father didn't waste any more words on her. He shot Caleb a look of pure contempt and left. The moment he was gone, Caleb was at her side. Selena, what did your father mean? He was just kidding, right? Selena sank onto the sofa, completely dazed. She didn't hear him. She hadn't realized that without me, everything would fall apart. Her heart was in turmoil. Her mind was a wreck. That night, I stared at the dozen missed calls from her on my phone, saying nothing. A flood of texts followed. I glanced at the first few. Leo, please pick up the phone. I have something really important to tell you. I didn't read the rest. I turned off my phone and went asleep. A few days later, I received an email inviting me to be interviewed for a popular online news segment. They mentioned a major award. I recognized the program and immediately accepted. Julia was uneasy about it. On the day of the recording, she suddenly pulled me into a tight hug. Good luck, she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. I smiled into her hair. I will be. When I arrived at the studio, I saw it was set up for a live broadcast with a massive screen and multiple cameras. The interview began, and eventually the host asked me about my first love. I fell silent. Then, the large screen beside us lit up, playing a montage of photos and videos chronicling my relationship with Selena from our first date to our engagement. I watched it all with a blank expression. Leo, do you remember? Selena's voice suddenly filled the studio. She walked onto the set, her eyes red-rimmed, and full of emotion. You proposed to me right here. The whole city watched. I don't blame you for losing your memory or for confusing someone else with me, because I have always loved you. My heart will always belong to you. Her performance was so convincing, I almost believed it myself. In college, I brought you an umbrella when it rained. I brought you food when you were studying. I took you out to have fun. Do you remember on graduation day, you told me, with tears in your eyes, that we would be together forever? Have you really forgotten all of it? I remembered, except she had it all backward. I was the one who had done all those things for her. The live chat was flooded with comments praising Selena's deep love and devotion. My parents were in the studio audience. Leo, the entire city is my witness. I am your girlfriend. Please, believe me, she said, stepping forward to take my hand. I think I'm starting to remember something. I murmured, clutching my head. Selena's eyes lit up. Leo, really? Do you remember me? She rushed forward, her grip on my hand tightening with excitement. In her office, miles away, Julia heard my words on a live stream and closed her laptop. She stared at a framed photo of us on her desk, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. The beautiful dream was finally over. She had to wake up. Am I your girlfriend? Do you remember? Selena pressed, her voice urgent as I remained silent. I remember, I said, a cold smile touching my lips. Selena was so overjoyed she tried to hug me, but I shoved her away. I remember begging you to go out with me for 3 years before you finally said yes. I began, my voice quiet but carrying through the silent studio. I remember crying with happiness when you accepted. I remember you promising me we'd be together forever. I remember all of it. My own eyes began to burn. But do you remember any of it? I asked, my voice rising. Selena was speechless. You talk about bringing me umbrellas and food in college, but I was the one who did all that for you. I gave you everything I had. And what did you give me? I demanded, stepping toward her. She realized something was terribly wrong. Leo, let's talk about this at home, she whispered desperately. You probably don't remember this either, I continued, ignoring her. When you were sick, I was the one who ran all over the city for you, staying by your side day and night. At business dinners, I was the one who took the drinks for you. I cleaned up every mess you made. When you got in a fight, I was the one who took a bat to the ribs for you. Do you remember any of that? I roared, my voice raw with pain. I had exhausted myself for her. Leo, I remember, Selena said frantically, grabbing for my hand. You remember? I pulled my hand away and raised it toward the control booth. The massive screen behind us flickered to life. It showed a photo of Selena in bed, snuggled up against a man whose face was obscured. She looked peaceful, happy, her neck covered in love bites. The man was clearly not me. Selena's eyes widened in horror. Leo, have you no shame? You put a camera in my room? She shrieked, her voice cracking with fury and panic. I have no interest in watching your affairs, I said, my voice dripping with cold fury. That photo was sent to me last night. By him. Selena's head was spinning. You're lying. Caleb is too innocent. He would never do something like that, she insisted, refusing to believe it. Right? He's young. He's innocent. And I'm the evil, manipulative one, I said, my eyes filled with a profound and bottomless disappointment. She realized her mistake and tried to backtrack, but I stepped away from her. Selena scrambled to the control booth, frantically trying to shut down the live feed. She had the crew usher everyone out, then spun around and marched back to me. Leo, are you trying to ruin me? She screamed. We were together for 3 years. Don't you have any love left for me at all? How could you be so cruel? Now you're scared? I asked, a bitter laugh escaping my lips as I watched her panic. Leo, she pleaded, reaching for my hand again. When you pushed me into the ocean to get a laugh out of Caleb, did you ever stop to think if I was scared? I roared, shaking her off. In the front row, my father nearly collapsed. That terror, that feeling of drowning. I still have nightmares about it. I confessed, my voice breaking. I wake up terrified every single night. But you get to be happy? You chase after other men, buy them luxury cars, buy them condos, sleep with them. The more I spoke, the more the raw agony poured out of me. I had given her my whole heart, and she had treated it like a toy. Selena had nothing to say. I wasn't serious about Caleb, she finally stammered. But what about you and Julia? How can you judge me? You slept with her, didn't you? She accused, grasping at straws. Whether I did or not, what does it have to do with you? I said with a cold smile. The man I used to be died the moment you pushed me into that water. Nothing I do now is any of your business. My gaze hardened, the last flicker of warmth gone. Seeing the absolute coldness in my eyes, Selena felt a sharp pain in her chest. She grabbed my hand, still trying to argue her case. I don't accept this breakup. I'll dump Caleb. I never loved him. The person I love is you. After 3 years, the roots of our relationship ran deep. She had always believed, unshakably, that I would love her forever. I pulled my hand free. My father walked onto the stage. "You disgusting woman," he snarled at her. "If you ever come near my son again, I swear the Vance family will make you regret it." He put a protective arm around me and led me away. As we left, Selena started to follow, but her phone rang, stopping her in her tracks. "You useless girl. You couldn't even handle this one simple thing." Her father's voice boomed through the phone. "As of today, you are no longer my daughter. You're on your own." He hung up before she could say a word. Selena felt as if a bucket of ice water had been dumped over her head, the chill seeping into her bones. She had lost me, and now her father had disowned her. She drove back to the condo in a daze, only to find Caleb packing his bags. She ran to stop him. "What are you doing? Where are you going?" Caleb scowled. "I'm not going anywhere. You are. This is my house." All his previous gentleness was gone. He shoved her hand away. Selena looked down and saw that he was packing her clothes. "Caleb, what does this mean?" she asked, unable to believe that the sweet, innocent boy could be so cruel. "What does it mean?" he sneered. "It means you've ruined my reputation and gotten me expelled from college. And now that you're broke, I have no reason to pretend anymore. Get out of my condo. Now, the sight of you old women makes me sick." He pointed to the door, his face a mask of contempt. Selena was stunned. "Caleb, you said you loved me," she whispered. "Love? How much is love worth? Leo Vance loved you, and you still pushed him into the ocean. I heard he's terrified of water and can't swim. He's lucky to be alive. But I'm not as stupid as him," Caleb said with a cold laugh. Looking at the sneering, ugly face in front of her, Selena couldn't believe this was the same Caleb. "You tricked me," she screamed, grabbing his collar. At that moment, another woman walked in and shoved Selena away. "Don't touch Caleb," she ordered. Selena looked at the two of them, standing so close together, and her world finally shattered. She recognized the woman, the daughter of a real estate tycoon and a friend of her younger sister. Caleb had already secured his next benefactor. "I'll kill you, both of you." Selena completely snapped. Blind with rage, she grabbed a knife from a block on the counter and lunged at the woman. The next second, she was tackled by two bodyguards who pinned her to the floor. They beat her, then dragged her out of the condo and threw her onto the street. A moment later, a text came from her sister, twisting the knife. It said that everything Selena had given Caleb, including the condo, would now belong to her friend, who would also be taking her place as vice president at their father's company. Selena was broken. She had nowhere to go. She called every friend she had. No one answered, not even Chloe. Selena had well and truly lost everything. Her eyes burned with tears. She was homeless. She remembered a time right after college graduation when she'd gotten into trouble, stabbing someone in a fight. Her father had thrown her out, and it was me who had found her, helped her, and guided her through the crisis. Back then, one phone call, one text, and I would have dropped everything to be by her side. "Leo," Selena whispered. She had been sitting on the steps of my family's brownstone for hours. When I finally came out, she scrambled to her feet. I stopped, surprised to see her in such a state. Her face was bruised and swollen. Her eyes were dull and lifeless, and her expensive clothes were stained with dirt. "Ms. Shun, can I help you?" I asked, my face impassive. Hearing me call her Ms. Shun, her eyes filled with tears that streamed down her bruised cheeks. She knew there was no going back. "Leo, if only you hadn't lost your memory," she sobbed. "We would have been married by now." I allowed a cold laugh. She made it sound so simple. "I never lost my memory," I said, my voice flat and hard. "Not for a second. But from the moment I woke up in that hospital until today, you never once showed an ounce of remorse. Selena, you shatter my heart into a million pieces. Now, the only thing I feel when I see you is disgust. People who betray true love," I said coldly, "deserve to swallow 1,000 needles." She swayed on her feet. "Leo, why?" she choked out, completely broken. "Why would you pretend to have amnesia? To deceive me? And why did you choose Julia? The moment you pushed me, I was done with you," I said, my eyes blazing with a hate I didn't know I was capable of. "I wanted you to feel the same pain that I did." In that ER, surrounded by the beeping of machines, I felt helpless and filled with a burning rage. All I could see were the mocking faces of Selena and Caleb. I had hovered between life and death, and I had chosen to live. The first thing I saw when I opened my eyes was Selena, and I knew instantly that she felt no guilt. I hated her. I knew her pride, her vanity. I knew her greatest insecurity was always being second best to Julia Yee. So I used it. At first, I didn't expect Julia to play along. But I took one step toward her, and she ran the rest of the way to me. I knew I was using her, and it wasn't fair. That's why I went to work for her company, to solve her problems, to make her happy in any way I could. But since the interview, she hadn't answered any of my calls or texts. Leo, do you hate me that much? Selena was still pleading. Enough to torture me like this? Please don't contact me again. I had no more time for her. I got in my car and sped toward Julia's apartment. Not long after I left, Selena was arrested. My father had pressed charges for attempted murder. She didn't resist. She confessed to everything. I arrived at Julia's building. Her colleagues had told me she'd been unreachable all afternoon, not answering calls or texts, which was unheard of for the workaholic Julia Yi. I rang the doorbell several times with no answer. Fearing the worst, I used my car to get a boost over the garden wall and climbed into her backyard. The back door was unlocked. I opened it cautiously. Julia? Julia, I'm coming in. I walked into the living room and froze. On one entire wall was a massive, framed photograph. It was of me from college, standing next to her. A graduation picture. I stood staring at it for a long time. I barely knew Julia in college. She was just a brilliant, beautiful girl everyone talked about. But on graduation day, she had come up and asked for a picture with me. She had even changed into a white dress for it. I thought it was just a casual photo between classmates. The portrait was hung directly opposite the sofa, impossible to miss. I searched the apartment and found her on the floor of her bedroom. She was drunk, her cheeks flushed, her eyes hazy. She was wearing a thin silk robe and clutching a bottle of wine in one hand and a picture frame in the other. Her robe had fallen open, revealing her delicate collarbones. I reached for the wine bottle, and she let it go easily. But when I tried to take the picture frame, her eyes snapped open. They were clear and innocent, yet clouded with intoxication. Don't touch it, she slurred, her voice hoarse. Her protest only made me more curious. Let me see, please, I asked with a smile. No, she said, a hint of anger in her voice. Seeing how stubborn she was, I didn't press. I gently pulled her robe closed, lifted her into my arms, and laid her on the bed. I took off her shoes and then went to get her a glass of water. While she was drinking, I glanced at the frame she'd set down. It was another picture of us. Why was this so precious to her? Julia, why are you drinking so much? This isn't like you, I said, my voice growing serious as I sat on the edge of the bed. Her hazy gaze was fixed on my face. I was taken aback. I understood the deep, unwavering love in her eyes. She looked away, put the water down, and tucked the frame into a drawer. Her expression regained its usual composure. I hear you have your memory back, she said quietly. So you must remember that I'm not really your girlfriend. I could hear the tremor in her voice. I was silent for a moment, unsure how to tell her I had never lost it at all. Shouldn't you be with Selena right now? She asked, her head bowed, her voice barely a whisper. I never lost my memory, I finally admitted, my voice thick with guilt. I'm sorry. I used you. Julia froze. I came here today to tell you the truth, I continued, unable to meet her eyes. At first, I was just going to use your name. I never expected to drag you into this, to get you hurt. So, are you and Selena broken up? Julia's question hung in the air. I looked up at her. The moment she pushed me into the ocean, we were done, I said firmly. We will never get back together. Good, she replied. A sudden light sparked in her eyes, and the color returned to her cheeks. Are you hungry? I can make you something to eat. She picked up her phone, glanced at the time, and swung her legs off the bed. I'm not hungry, I said, completely baffled by her reaction. Aren't you angry? No. She started to walk unsteadily toward the door. I quickly caught her, guiding her back to the bed and telling her to rest. I thought she was just hungry from the drinking, so I offered to cook for her, but she grabbed my hand and pulled me down onto the bed with surprising strength. My face landed squarely against her chest, separated only by a thin layer of silk. The warmth and softness of her body sent a jolt through me. I pushed myself up on my hands, my face burning. I'm sorry, Ms. Yi, I stammered. You pulled me, and I lost my balance. I prefer it when you call me Julia, she said, her beautiful features softening. You saw the picture in the living room, right? You should know by now how I feel about you. I'm not asking for an answer right away. You can take your time to think. My gaze dropped. You've liked me since college? Yes. The moment she said it, I leaned in and kissed her. Her lips were soft and warm, tasting of wine. I felt a little drunk myself. As our lips met, I felt her whole body go still with shock. This was our first real kiss. I had kissed her cheek once before, but this was different. She wrapped her arms around my neck, arching her back to deepen the kiss. After a moment, she rolled over, pinning me beneath her as she kissed me with a desperate, hungry passion. The air in the room grew hot. I shifted our positions, moving on top of her. Julia, I gasped, looking down at her flushed, beautiful face. My throat was dry. Are we moving a little too fast? Her eyes were dark and filled with a deep, tender longing. I'm sorry, she whispered. I think I've had too much to drink. But even as she said it, her arms tightened around my waist, holding me close as she closed her eyes, pretending to drift off to sleep. I looked at her, at the slight tremble of her eyelashes, and knew she was faking. I smiled, wrapped my arms around her, and held her tight. I ended up staying the night. The next morning, I woke to the feeling of something soft and warm in my arms. I opened my eyes to see Julia curled up against me, sleeping peacefully. I noticed she'd changed into a fresh set of pajamas and had washed her face. I tried to slip out of bed, but the moment I moved, she stirred, her hand shooting out to grab my arm. I made breakfast, she said after a moment's hesitation. Okay, let me just wash up. I went into the en-suite bathroom and found a new toothbrush and toiletries already laid out for me. She must have been up for a while. When I came out, she was waiting for me by the door. Julia, you could have started without me, I said with a smile. I wanted to wait for you, she replied, her face perfectly composed, but I saw the tips of her ears turn bright red. The cool, serious Julia, you had a surprisingly shy side. After breakfast, she looked at me several times, hesitating, before finally asking in a small voice, a blush creeping up her cheeks. So, are we boyfriend and girlfriend now? I smiled. Of course. A small, happy smile touched her lips. She told me to make myself at home while she cleaned the kitchen. Glancing toward the kitchen, I saw the insulated containers she had brought to the hospital. The food from that day. She must have made it all herself. I walked back into the living room, taking in the cool, minimalist decor. It seemed she lived alone. On a side table, there was a stack of small cards. They looked familiar. I picked one up, and my expression froze. I slipped into my pocket. Julia, something came up. I have to go, I called toward the kitchen. But as my hand touched the doorknob, she was there, grabbing my sleeve. She looked up at me with wide, pleading eyes. I couldn't resist. I pressed her against the door and gave her a long, deep kiss. When I pulled back, she stared at me and whispered, "Come back soon." I will. When I got home, my dad told me Selena had been arrested. I was silent for a long time before nodding and heading upstairs. I pulled out a large, dusty box from the back of my closet and opened it. It was filled with gifts. I'd only ever opened one. I'd assumed they were delivered to me by mistake and had been waiting for someone to claim them. I took out the card from inside and compared it to the one I'd taken from Julia's apartment. The handwriting was identical. Ever since college, Julia had sent me a gift on every one of my birthdays. The card always said the same thing, "Happy birthday." But on my birthday the year I got together with Selena, there was an extra line. "I hope you'll be happy." The gifts were all expensive, thoughtful, and perfect. I picked up my phone and called Julia. "Julia," I said, a wide smile on my face. "Let's get married." There was a moment of silence on the other end, then a choked sob. Okay. Julia first saw me at a campus music festival. I was on stage, playing guitar and singing. It was a warm summer night, the air filled with the sound of cicadas and music. I had short hair and was wearing a simple white t-shirt and black jeans. My skin was fair, my features sharp. I was young and full of life. She was captivated. She stood in the crowd and watched me for a long time, her eyes never leaving me, even after the show ended. "Was it good?" I asked, walking over to her after I'd put my guitar away. I noticed her watching me. My smile was bright and easy. She fell completely. She spent the next weeks trying to find out my name. But just as she tracked me down, a family emergency forced her to leave the country. She took 2 years off from school. By the time she came back, I was with Selena. She heard I'd even ended up in the hospital for her. The news sent her rushing to the hospital in a panic. She was relieved to see I was okay. She sent me a gift every year, but she never let me see her. She stayed in the shadows. Until this year, when she saw the live stream of my proposal to Selena. Her heart broke. She finally let go. She spent the entire night drinking. The watch she'd bought for my birthday this year left unsent. Then, one night, a client invited her to a bar to discuss a deal. After a few drinks, she was about to leave when I suddenly appeared in front of her. I ran toward her with a smile, wrapped my arms around her, and called her Julia in the most intimate way. For a long moment, she was stunned, convinced she was dreaming. She didn't dare move or touch me, afraid the dream would shatter. It wasn't until Selena appeared that she realized it was real. I had lost my memory, and I thought she was Selena. I thought she was my girlfriend. She saw it as an opportunity, but she hesitated. She knew how much I loved Selena. She knew that sooner or later, I would leave her. But then she heard I was back in the hospital, and she couldn't stop herself from going. I looked exhausted, the life and light gone from my eyes. Her heart ached for me. She suddenly couldn't bear to let me go. Selena couldn't take care of me. Maybe she could, but she talked to the doctor. He said I would likely recover my memory within 3 months. So she started counting down the days until I would leave her. She took me everywhere she could think of, hoping to leave a small trace of herself in my life. But hearing me finally say the words, that I had my memory back, tore her in two. She didn't want to let go, but she wanted me to be happy. And then she woke up from a drunken stupor, and I was there, looking at her with the same handsome, sunlit face from college, my eyes filled with concern. I told her I had never lost my memory. At first, she was shocked, but seeing the guilt on my face, she felt a wave of secret relief. Relief that I wasn't amnesiac. Relief that I had chosen her. As long as she could be with me, she would do anything. Later, when I told her I wanted to get married, she was so overcome with emotion she couldn't speak, but she managed to answer. We had a magnificent wedding, so grand that everyone in New York knew about it. She wanted the whole world to know that I belonged to her. And even now, Julia opens her eyes and sees me lying beside her. Her expression softens. She pulls me closer, holding me tight, and leans in to kiss my lips. "Leo, I love you," she whispers, her voice thick with emotion. "I love you too," I smile. Julia's dream came true, and I found a lifetime of happiness.